living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hey there, welcome to Your Ultimate Life, the podcast created for you to create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. I had a wonderful opportunity this morning to conduct a class. It wasn't even really a class, for about 25 people or 22 or something. And it was just magic. It was a bunch of eager people who are adding good to the world in great and fabulous ways. And, you know, when we talk, I talk about that a lot. And so for a second, this is the second part. Remember, I told you I was doing a 4-part series, and the overall title is From Stuck to Soaring, right? Stuck to soaring, meaning getting out of the swamp and getting in the air, creating whatever you want. So why would I talk all the time about adding good to the world? Well, here's the truth. We go to sleep every night and we wake up, and whatever we do is what we add to the world. If I wake up and I get frustrated because I've got too many emails, or I get an email that's a negative news, or I turn on the, television or thumb through Apple News or something and see some headlines that bother me, suddenly I am in a negative space. I've got negative energy. You know that. You've done it. What am I adding to the world? I'm adding negative energy. The headlines are the headlines. I interpret them in a negative way, so I decide I'm upset. Those stupid, and I carry that energy. If I have a partner, then I've infected them with that energy. Don't you think that was really dumb? And, whatever we're going to talk about, right? So consciousness about what you're adding to the world. And one of the biggest lies is it doesn't make any difference. Doesn't matter. I'm just one person. I'm in the privacy of my own room. That is a gigantic lie. And it's not, it might be told from a lot of reasons. One is I don't want to take responsibility. Two, maybe I'm just completely unaware. When I put negativity in the world, it's there. And what that means is I have a choice about what I put into the world, into the atmosphere, into the energy field, into the woo-woo, whatever you want to call it. I have a choice about what I put in there. And if you think it doesn't matter, think again. And that's why I say add good to the world. In that class I taught early this morning, there was a lady in there who's been a private client off and on for several years. And she said something that just tickled me. It was unexpected. She said, one of the things that you, Kellan, said a long time ago that stuck with me forever is, how are you adding good to the world? And that's a question I ask a lot. If you watch a lot of episodes, you've seen me ask guests that all the time. And I asked her the same question these many months or years ago. And she said, it just stuck with her. And then she said, I think about that now every single morning. Now, I want you to just think about this for a sec. What difference do you think it makes in that woman's life? Because she's saying, I think every morning, what am I going to do today to add good to the world? There's some choices we don't have. If we breathe, we add carbon dioxide. Fortunately, the Creator made it so that, plants, turn that cycle around, use carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. And that's a piece of the divine design of the planet, or we'd all croak. But energetically, emotionally, with our language, with our attitude, you've been around people that you go in where they are and you just feel. Nobody has to say anything, and you're like, ooh, stay away from them. Or on the other hand, it's really positive, inviting, and loving, and open. And nobody said a word. And we know that. So the idea that we add good or not good, anger, evil, frustration, negativity, fear to the world by how we think, what we believe, what we say, what we emote is not a fancy. It is a fact. Now, armed with that fact, that puts you and me in a position to make choices. Now, one choice is I don't give a crap. I'm just going to add to the world whatever I feel like at the moment. I'm not going to pay any attention to it. That's a choice. It's not a very empowering choice, because then what I'm doing is giving all the circumstances around me sovereignty over my life. Everything makes me feel like, makes me is the operative word, right? Makes me feel like whatever it does, and then I add that to the world. Or I can choose to add negative stuff to the world. I can be angry, ruminating over a slight or an insult or an injury or an illness, and add negativity to the world. Maybe I'm in the hospital. I was, remember, several years ago for quite some time. And there were times when I did not remember, and I was to add good to the world, and I was so frustrated about my own pain and stuff that I complained. Not a lot, not heavily, but even if I had, I was adding burden to those nurses and other orderlies and stuff that are already doing a very difficult job. And I was heaping that on them because I chose to be more focused on my own stuff. And so I'm urging you in every episode to choose, be conscious of what you add to the world and choose it, and choose good. Add good to the world, add smiles, add happiness, add friendship, add trust, add love, add kindness, add helping, add your own excellence and expertise. In 2 weeks from when I record this, when you see it, it'll be over, but from 2 weeks from now, I'm going to conduct a book challenge where I'm going to teach people about how to identify their stories and then help them, invite them to organize and write a book about their life journey, not as a memoir, but as a tool to mine super valuable resources that they can offer to the world. So this series, From Stuck to Soaring, episode 1 that we did was a couple ago. It was before the last guest. And that was the hidden cost of settling, why good enough's holding you back. Today I want to talk about the power of choice, reclaiming your agency. Excuse me, and I've set that up, just like you see, by talking about the fact that we choose what we add to the world. Now, this sign behind me, if you're watching the video, says escape the prison of perfectionism. That is just one tiny aspect of how we choose to add our energy, creativity, and love, or negativity, fear, and the opposite kind of stuff to the world. When I'm being a perfectionist, and this is not always true, but 99% plus, it's because I'm afraid to finish. I did that in the recording studio a lot. There was the myth among recording engineers about the one true mix, which is mixing a song is, bass and drums and piano and string, whatever it is, getting the right levels and getting the vocals centered and in front and all the kind of things that are technical wizardry that you do with the mixing board and effects and all that stuff. And so the idea was if it were perfect, you'd have the one true mix. And the real truth is there's no such thing. And the reason is because everybody's ears are different. The minute you move from the studio speakers, which are perfectly balanced, aligned, EQ'd, and everything else to the room, and you take it to a car, a boombox, or anything, it sounds a little different. And even if you do a great mix so that it sounds good on all of them, there's no such thing as the one true mix. The reason that's important right now with respect to this perfectionism thing is because if you spend forever trying to get the one true mix, you're never going to get your work done. You're never going to get the album finished. You're never going to get the songs done. And you know what? Whether people like your stuff or not, whether your songs take off or set a new trend or get a lot of streams or anything or not, depends way less than you think as an engineer on the mix. It depends on his song. I mean, it can't be crappy mix with something way too loud, but there's a big range in there that's the one true mix because of different speakers and different genres and all that kind of stuff. Our lives are the same way. We talked about settling, addiction to mediocrity last time. Now I want to talk about what's next. If you choose you're not settling for the easy and obvious. You're not going to go the easy route and settle for mediocrity. And you're going to say, I'm going to not let perfectionism slow me down. I'm not going to, and how this plays out, I coach businesses. A lot of businesses. And we'll talk about marketing. Well, it's not quite ready. The copy's got to be better. The ads got to be a little better. The photos got to be better. The graphics got to be better. Maybe it does, but you know what the fastest way to find the improvements are? Put it out there. Split test. Do two different things and see what resonates. So execute, action, move. And you know the fun part? That is completely within your choice. Don't know why I have such a bug today, but anyway, the choice to act is always there. There are days when I'm doing shows or going to interview somebody or be interviewed or whatever, when I feel more alive, aligned, whatever that is, than others. And I can say, well, it's not the right time. I never do that. And the reason is because I have a message for you. And the message is you are divine. Even if you live a little or a lot in this swamp, and the mud in the swamp is learned helplessness, where you believe you can't do anything anyway. It's addiction to mediocrity, where you just settle for the easy and obvious because it's too hard or too much is against you and lots of other reasons. And a victim mindset where we blame everything. Everything's happening to me. Why does it, that kind of thing. That's being stuck in the mud, because if that's that cement around your shoes or the mud around your shoes or mine, we're not going to make much progress. Now, you know all that. The other end of that rainbow, the place you can get to, is the pot of gold. And the pot of gold is where you have fierce life ownership. You recognize and acknowledge you are sovereign. And the second characteristic up there is radical excellence. Now, radical excellence isn't compared to everybody else. Radical excellence is a self-determined level where you've done absolutely everything you knew you could do. If it turns out not to be enough, that's okay. You can do it again. You can make changes and so forth. The thing that makes it get stuck in the meantime is we make that mean something about us. I suck. It didn't work, therefore I suck. That's not true. It didn't work. Maybe the facts. It didn't sell. I didn't get the job. I didn't get the opportunity, whatever. But it is not a personal indictment. The only failure is when we quit trying. You only die when you quit trying. You only fail when you give up. Now, all of those things, and the third word up there, so it's fierce life ownership, radical excellence, and a commitment or a passion to serve. We're built as humans to love and serve each other. You've heard me say that a lot of times, but you know what? You know that's true because of how good you feel when you're doing stuff for people. You go help a friend move. You help somebody at the store. It just feels good. Go work in the soup kitchen, whatever. There's 1,000 little and big ways to do that, and it makes us feel good, connected, loving, unified as a human family. Now, today is the power of choice, reclaiming your agency. And we've just given a whole bunch of examples of where the choice is the fundamental determinant of growth. Because if I live with a victim mindset, I'm never going to rise above that. If I live with an addiction to mediocrity, I'm not going to get very far. Learned helplessness, like I said, it's learned. An infant doesn't have that. A toddler, fearless. I remember one of my sons had a bookshelf in the living room that I had somebody build, a friend, 2 of them, and it went all the way up to the ceiling, right? And so there were several shelves in it, and I did it because I loved collecting books, and so I had a lot of them. And one day I came in there and found my son. He'd climbed, and he's a toddler. I don't remember exactly how old, but not very old. And he climbed up to the 3rd or 4th shelf, way high enough that it, could have hurt him fall down, especially if he'd fallen on the piano bench or corner of a table or something. No fear at all. So these are all learned behaviors. So let's look at some truths. Let's look at some principles that are designed to help you. Because remember, we're here to create your ultimate life, a life driven by purpose. And if you don't have that, let's talk. I'm not going to do that right now, but reach out to me. You see here on the URL, the screen, kellanflukigermedia.com. Go there. There's a contact form. Let's talk. Because if you don't feel like you know and have your life's purpose and it doesn't feel powerful and driving you, then let's fix that, because there's nothing more happy, satisfying, driving, energizing than to have a life purpose. and to be focused and clear on it. So the ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy. Now, one way that people say that is do what you love and the money will follow, about the prosperity piece. And that's true, sort of. There are guidelines and boundaries about that because everybody starts in a different place with or without certain skills and with or without certain commitments they've already made, like if you've got family or kids or other things. So it's true, and it's powerful and good advice, and sometimes there's a ramp or a transition. Purpose, prosperity, and joy. My deepest wish for you is that you live day to day a life that is full of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And do you know why? I live that way. Every day of my life is full of purpose. And that has created prosperity financially and in relationships to my dear angel wife, to my God, my clients. And I have some relationships that are still under construction. But I live hopeful and joyful. So I live with purpose, prosperity, and joy every day, no exceptions. And I also remember vividly and painfully how it was to not have any of that. And I remember vividly and powerfully exactly things that I did to get from one end of the rainbow, addiction to mediocrity, learned helplessness, and victim mindset, to the other end where the pot of gold is, fierce life ownership, where you know and own the truth that you create every aspect of your life, radical excellence, and a passion for service. So let's go over these things that might help you. One truth that will help you grab back the steering wheel of your life is you are not your circumstances. You're not your circumstances. Sometimes we identify with that. So let's say you're broke, you lost your job, you're living in a small place, and you're wondering where your rent is going to come from. I'm just making that up. But I know right this minute there's people hearing this that feel that way. So let's say that's true for you. If you say, I am my circumstances, I'm a loser, I can't even keep a job, I can't keep a roof over my head, I'm a loser, I can't do this. That kind of thinking leads to drinking or other substances. It leads to ruining relationships. It can lead to much, much darker places too, if you repeat that. That you that's in you is a divine spark, a divine being, a divine spirit. You may at this moment be right in the middle of some hard circumstances, like we listed. Maybe you're ill, maybe you're out of money, or maybe you're worried about, how long the job you've got is going to last. There's 100,000 variations of that theme. All of them, there's two parts to them. One is the actual external circumstances, and two is the choice that you make about what they mean. Now, I want you to let that land for a minute. Think right now for a moment where you are identifying with your circumstances. The positive ones are true also. So let's say you've had some good fortune, or you've done some really good work, you got a great job, or your business is doing well and you make a boatload of cash. So then you say, I am Joe Cool or Jane Cool because I got all this money and I know how to create cash and I'm better than, I'm all that. That's not true either. You're still a divine being. You're a divine being who's trying and accomplishing some good things, but you and I both know if the economy changed or a weather disaster struck or some war or other government thing took place, that fast. I want you to think back to 2008, which for some of you is a long time ago. For me, it's not that long. 2008, when the real estate and things crashed terribly in America, and it affected countries all over the world, but it was a horrific crash. Bad loans, bunched up together, and all of the reasons: overvalued real estate, too easy of lending policies, lack of collateralization in banks, a whole bunch of reasons. So overnight, I personally have friends, several. I can think of many, some of which have been guests on either this show or LA Talk Radio, who lost everything in that 2008 crash, and they went from wealthy to bankrupt, busted, and with nothing in about a week or a month. Literally, everything changed. Did that change who they were? Were they cool one day and a dirtbag the next? No. The circumstances around them changed. And to the extent we let our circumstances define us, it robs us. It makes us stupid. It robs us of creativity to deal with the unfortunate circumstance. So remember, you're not your circumstance. Okay? Your power, the power of a divine being to create, doesn't come from your circumstance. It comes from inside of you. Now, I realize that might be hard to internalize, but part of the process that I had to go through was learning how to hear and recognize and act on intuition and inspiration. The divine, God, wants you and me to succeed. Now, his definition of success goes through some swamps and tough things, presumably because he's trying to make the most out of us. If we just sail through with nothing difficult, then we haven't been refined at all, and there's nothing much to speak of. If we get tested in the furnace of affliction, there's a lot that happens to us by how we decide to deal with that. So the second one is the idea of choice versus compulsion, force, choice versus force. And I'll give you an example of language I want you to listen to in your own life. Do you say ever, I gotta do this? I'd love to, but I have to, H-A-F-T-A, have to. And other version, I gotta do this, I have no choice, that kind of language where you feel, the experience in your body is you've got some kind of obligation and you're not happy about it. You know what that means? Obligation can be and often is a terrible word because it brings with it the seeds of resentment. I have to do that almost always means I'd rather be doing something else. Well, I'm going to invite you to do something crazy. Empty your calendar. Take everything out. Cancel everything you think you have to do, period. And you can do this in an hour. I don't mean to, wreck the world. But if you take everything off your calendar and everything out of your checkbook and all the bills and everything, and then go back and look at them and make this choice. Which ones am I committed to fulfilling? Pay my mortgage payment, be faithful to my spouse, do a good job serving my clients, be a good example for my kids. And the difference is this. Obligation is something that you feel like you have to do and you want to do something else. A commitment is something you choose to do and you have the opportunity in that choice to lean into it with all your heart. So you may put many of the same things or all the same things back on your calendar, but if you turn them into commitments instead of obligations, it's going to change the energy. You're going to do a better job and you're not going to feel exhausted and tired, and it's going to feel more like your authentic self. So that is a choice you can make. Either quit doing something, bail out, stop, or turn it into a commitment that you're proud and honored to keep, and then keep it as best you can. Number 3, I want you to think about micro decisions. Because when we talk about we each create the circumstances of our lives, it feels like we're talking about, Mount Everest and big things. No, we're actually not. We're talking about the moment-to-moment, second-to-second decisions that we make. So I'll give you an example. When I was in the hospital that I referred to earlier, and I was frustrated with nursing or how I was feeling, I don't actually remember individual circumstances, but I remember the feeling. I know for sure that I made their job harder, and it was less fun for them to take care of me, to answer my questions, to answer the call button, and all the rest. So those individual tiny decisions add up to something. You know the story of the hole in the dike. Told in the Netherlands, there's a hole in the dike, and you plug it with your finger, and if you don't, the water washes away more, and suddenly it's a flood. It escalates very quickly. You also know that in an argument. Get in an argument with somebody, and people escalate. One sentence. Pretty soon it's gone from mild disagreement to full-out nuclear war in the relationship. And you know what I'm talking about. So your micro decisions is what shapes your destiny. And it isn't only the things you do, it's also the things you choose to ignore. So pay attention to, I have a phrase that I use a lot, notice and choose. Sharpen your notice muscle. Like, notice what the words are in your own head. How are you talking to yourself? How are you talking to others? Notice, and then make choices. Wait a minute, I don't want to say that. Even if you say something, wait a minute, let's take that back. That was stupid. Give me a redo. Like, choose so that the impression, the energetic aftertaste that you or I leave in somebody's mouth is what you mean it to be. That is choice, powerful, and it's one you can make right now, and you can start a new habit right this minute. If you rag on yourself in your head, quit. If you rag on other people, if you're a complainer, quit. Substitute positivity and love. It changes relationships, and it also changes how you feel. The fourth one is every one of us has a past. Every one of us has skeletons, little tiny ones or great big ones in the closet. I used to have a lot of big ones. I say used to, not because they're not big anymore. They're big. They were huge. Mistakes, unkindness, you've already heard the list. They used to scare me to death. If people would find out about me, and then they wouldn't like me. I wouldn't be able to do this or that. I wouldn't be accepted, loved, whatever. You can own your past without being defined by it. Because if I live in fear, or you live in fear that somebody's going to find out something about you, and that finding out's going to trash the relationship or make them not like you or want to be around you, number one, they're not worth being around, period. And number two, that makes you act way differently. You hide, you lie, you shade, you avoid, and that energy is obvious. That means to people you can't be trusted. It doesn't feel good to be around you. And then you're going to wonder why people aren't comfortable in your presence. Owning your past doesn't mean standing up on a podium and shouting out every mistake you've ever made so it's out in the open. A lot of that work is done in private. And the reason it's done in private is because lots of the mistakes were done in private. If you have public reconciliation you need to make, then do it. If you have debts you need to pay, then do it. Clean up what you can. Most of the things that hurt the most, honor, hurting someone's feelings, being, betrayal, those kind of things, we can't fix those anyway. So we fix what we can, and then we change who we are. This is how you own your past. Shakespeare wrote a play called As You Like It, and there were some characters in there, and it's an older brother and a younger brother, and to make the story short, the older brother hated the younger brother because the younger brother seemed like the favorite. So the older brother kept trying to kill his younger brother because he was mad at him. And one day something happened and the older brother got in trouble, bad trouble, like threatened. And the younger brother came and saved him. And so that caused the older brother some serious reflection, and he changed completely. After that, he never did that anymore, changed his opinions, feelings, so he changed who he was. And later, a couple of women were talking to him and said, hey, wait a minute, weren't you the guy that kept trying to kill your younger brother? And he said it very simply, 'Twas I, 'tis not I. So if you're trying to own your past and not be limited or defined by it, fix what you can, change who you are, like the older brother did, and then go about adding good to the world. That's all you can do. The important piece is changing who you are, because then you can say, 'Twas I, 'tis not I. 'Twas I did those things. I own them. I wouldn't do them again. 'Tis not I am not that. So you've changed who you are. You aren't going to choose what happened, even if you did it. You can't re-choose, right? But you don't have to let it define you. You get to choose what it means. It meant a tremendous lesson for me. It meant a massive shift. All right, the fifth one is the energy difference between a victim and a victor. Okay? When you become a victim, you're giving away your agency. You're giving away your power. You're allowing someone else's words, their choices, their energy to define who you are. So even if someone does something to you, they rip you off $1,000, you can choose to go in a rage, scream at them, try to get revenge or whatever, and that contaminates you with poison straight up. Or you can remain calm. You can do whatever's appropriate according to law and so forth, and that'll take whatever course it is. But at all moments and times, you can remain a loving, kind person. Even the way we access the wheels of justice, whatever they are, if we're raging and furious, that only poisons me. If somebody insulted me and I can't, there's no law thing to do, but I'm mad at them forever, and I kneel down to pray and I rage at God and tell him to, damn that person or burn their house down or whatever. And first of all, God's going to ignore me. But second of all it does is poison me. So I want you to be aware, this is notice and choose, today and tomorrow, each moment where you give away your power by allowing someone to make you mad, make you lonely, make you anything. Nobody can do that. No one can change how you feel, only you or me. And the way we change it is by what we believe. So if someone insults me, I believe that they hate me. I believe, therefore, something's wrong with me, and that creates the negative feeling. So that's a really important one, and it's another notice and choose. Look for moments where you're giving away your power and end them. Number 6 is a daily creation process, daily rituals of sovereignty. You are sovereign. You own your life. Nobody can take any of it away from you. Even if they put you or me in jail. Think of Nelson Mandela, in jail for 27 years, I think I remember, the poem Invictus on the wall, right? And we've all seen the movies and stories of those people. Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp wrote Man's Search for Meaning and talked about forgiveness of the captors and the choice of people in those horrifying conditions to express love. Anyway, we get to choose. And if you sit there and say, it's impossible, I can't do that, that might be true today. So let's assume it's true today. But growth is an incremental process. Growth is something we do over time. And the first step is to say, I'm going to become a person who never allows anybody to make me mad. You might fail within the first hour, but you still can declare, I am that nobody makes me mad. And if you choose to work on it, an hour will go to 2, to 4, to 6, a day, a week. And you'll find that any of those things are possible. And you might say, why the hell would I do that? They deserve to have somebody mad at them. You know what? It's not our job to judge or to extract retribution or anything else. And what I can tell you is when we live, and I know this from experience, when we live with hate and anger full in our souls, we're the ones who get hurt. I remember the funny saying, carrying a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. So what I do is I have a daily creation process. And if you're interested in what it is, it's in a book called Living with Purpose and Power. And I was going to hold it up, but I don't have it in front of me. So Living with Purpose and Power. And if you go to that, www.kellanflukigermedia.com, you'll see it. In there, I tell you exactly what I do for my daily creation process. And it's not a trivial morning ritual, check some boxes, okay. It is a go in the fire, literally create my soul from scratch activity. And it works every day, which means the things that I'm talking to you about are how I live. Notice and choose. Choose to be loving and fix anything instantly where I fail. Nobody's perfect. So one of my declarations is I am that when I fall or fail in any declaration, I get up, fess up, clean it up, and recommit. So that little choice to take time in the morning to remind yourself who you are, a divine being on a mission to add good to the world, with love in your heart, with a choice to own your emotions and create your ultimate life. Those choices don't depend on anybody else. I don't care what they do or don't do. People can get in the way of the speed of our progress, but they can't take your goal or all of your progress away, I promise. And if you're arguing with me, that means you haven't tried this. Because I can promise you with a sacred promise that that's true. The last one I want to mention is back to what that woman told me. It's just remember, this whole episode's about keeping and reclaiming your choice. Choose who you're going to be today, no matter what. Like, you are free, and I urge you to make a declaration. I'm going to be kind today, no matter what. That means every thought, every word, every gesture, every person that cuts me off in traffic or ignores me or, steals some from me, whatever it is. No matter what, I am choosing to be kind because I can. And you know what? You can't make me not be kind. Isn't that interesting? Nobody can make you be mad or unkind. And here's what I can promise you. Getting into that mode of declaring who you are and then living in, authentic alignment with that, you will feel so good you won't know what to do with yourself, because suddenly you will realize you do have sovereign choice. And all this crap about people making you this, that, and the other isn't true. And the moment you actually realize that and it lands, you feel like, like you could do anything because you can. That's the secret to this. One of the secrets that we're talking about to creating your ultimate life is recognizing that you have sovereign control of what you think, how you feel, how you act, and what you create. So here's the CTA, call to action, right? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to make one unapologetic, game-changing, inconvenient decision or declaration today. One difficult, unapologetic, game-changing decision. And let it be about reclaiming your agency. I am no longer going to allow this situation or person or anything affect me. That doesn't mean the person has to go away or even the situation has to change. It's an internal game where you say, I no longer allow that to affect me. I challenge you to do that. Mastering that skill is awesome, will pay massive dividends, and is a huge step forward to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFlukigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe.
Feet on the
Share.
ground. Stand with your heart in the sky and your